Hello friends, today we will talk about the fifth president of Ukraine, Poroshenko, and investigation for his case. On January 17th, after a months-long absence, ex-president of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, returned to country. Earlier, he was charged by the State Bureau of Investigation with suspicions of high treason and financing of terrorism. Let me remind you that we are talking about the so-called coal business, deliveries in 2014-2015 to the territory of Ukraine of coal from the uncontrolled territories of so-called DPR and LPR, and also about the failure of the contract for the supply coal from South Africa to Ukraine in these years. On January 17th, the court considered Poroshenko's case and chose a measure of restraint for him. The prosecutor's office asked the court to arrest Poroshenko or 35 million bail. But on January 17, the court did not make a decision and postponed its announcement to January 18. Postponing the announcement of the decision of the judge as a measure of restraint for Petro Poroshenko may be associated not only with the personal position of the judge or behind-the-scenes negotiations between the office of Ukrainian president and the judiciary, but also possibly with the diplomatic moment. These days, the ministers of foreign affairs of Germany and Canada are visiting Ukraine, and most importantly, an urgent visit of State Secretary Antony Blinken and bipartisan delegation of the United States Congress. The announcement of the decision in the case of Petro Poroshenko in such conditions increases the risk of criticism of the authorities by the Western partners during their visit to Ukraine. Journalists close to Petro Poroshenko will at least raise uncomfortable questions and press conference and meetings with international guests, put distinguished guests in uncomfortable position. After all, we are talking about the former president of Ukraine and the partner of West, representing a patriotic political segment. In addition, Petro Poroshenko has actually been courting Western partners for the entire last month in order to convince them to influence to Vladimir Zelensky and abandon the persecution of him. Therefore, perhaps this is not a sign of weakness of collusion, but a pause necessary in order to say goodbye for guests. The decision of Petro Poroshenko may be tough, but later. He is a fish that has already swallowed the hook. Now he will constantly hang on the forensic-investigative fishing line, which will be regularly twitched, and at the right time they will begin to hook. Probably, coal business was originally aimed at Petro Poroshenko. One gets the impression that they tried to get evidence against Petro Poroshenko from all of his early defendants. Since neither Viktor Medvedchuk nor businessman Sergei Kuzyara, who did not hold any official positions, could hardly independently organize the supply of coal without support and instructions at the highest level, the fact of which no one denies today. Why Petro Poroshenko? Because the authorities are primarily concerned about the street and secondarily about the ratings. Namely, Petro Poroshenko, due his financial, media, organizational, political capabilities, could act as the organizer of the new patriotic Maidan. Likely, he already has such experience in 2024. And this is happening at the time when Ukraine is on the verge of having to make difficult and controversial decisions. Although initially the authorities chose the tactics to expel Petro Poroshenko, there was hope that he would be afraid of imprisonment and not return to Ukraine. But Poroshenko understood perfectly well that if he remained abroad, this would mean not only de facto admission of guilt, but also the defeat of his financial and political empire, which he carefully, bit by bit, built in Ukraine for decades. The lost control over the political and economical assets, media, etc. It is noteworthy that the investigators tried to avoid clashes at the airport and the escalation on the conflict. In addition, the authorities allowed Poroshenko's supporters to hold a protest on the territory of airport. Interestingly, that the greeting delegation of Poroshenko at the airport and the support group near the court in the lacked a lot of Poroshenko's associates, starting from the Epiphany, head of one of the Orthodox church in Ukraine, finishing the Klitschko, which became ill of COVID. Also, we could remind formerly friends from the People's Front, the same Arseniy Yatsenyuk, Yulia Tymoshenko also did not come to the court. Arsen Avakov or Andrei Bogdan did not look at the light of the opposition either. Such is the price of partnership and opposition in Ukraine. So far, the development of the event shows that the authorities are unlikely to have chosen the most radical scenario for Petro Poroshenko. Therefore, it is unlikely that he will be arrested and kept in a pre-trial detention center. Most likely, we can talk about the house arrest or bail, which will allow controlling all contacts of Petro Poroshenko, isolating him from his management of political process and the radical street. At the same time, his financial and media empire will be gradually dismantled for parts which the authorities have actually already taken up. The authorities are not against dragging this process out until the election, keeping the informational focus on it at the same time. After all, it links together Viktor Medvedchuk and Petro Poroshenko and the blood trade puts Poroshenko in the range of public perception between a corrupt official and the accomplice of the Kremlin. Hits the patriotic part of his electorate. This case poisons the political ratings of Petro Poroshenko and complicates his protection from the Western partners. The small number of rallies in the support of Petro Poroshenko and the sluggish reaction of the West are a clear illustration of this. Thank you, friends, for watching this vlog. Don't forget to subscribe for our channel. Write down your question near this video. I will be glad to answer for it. See you next time. Bye-bye.